I hope instead to sketch as honestly and effectively as I can, something I can recognize as my own, aware as I do so that even as I work after honesty and accuracy, memory will make this only one possible fiction among the myriad, many and open conflict anyone might write of any of us, as convinced as any other that what he or she wrote was truth. An 18-year-old college freshman walks to the library that sits behind his dorm. The year is 2012. He meets a black man, a college junior, whose age is unknown to him. Prior to this meeting, the two have agreed to have a sexual interaction. Their communication took place via email and began from a Craigslist personals ad. The 18-year-old did not know how to get to the library until Googling his location. Hey, what's up? Nothing much. How are you? I'm good. Same. So you a freshman? Yeah. Where you live at? Johnson? Oh, true. Who's your RA? Torian? Cool. Yeah, Torian, cool people. Yeah, he's a nice guy. So you ready to go? Yeah. All right, cool. Hold on. Give me a second. I got a spot. In a few moments, you will hear this sound. Psst. Pause the track when you hear this sound and begin to head to Morton Alley, located off of West Hamilton Street. To get there, leave the library, heading north on Cathedral Street, against the direction of traffic. Make a right onto West Hamilton Street. Morton Alley will be located on your left-hand side of Hamilton. Do not tell your partner where you are going. Make sure that they are following you closely. Pause this track when you hear the sound, psst, and begin to head to the alley. To repeat, head north on Cathedral, turn right onto West Hamilton Street, and then Morton Alley will be on your left. When you get inside the alley, give your partner a thumbs up and press play. Psst. All right, cool. Nice. Normal spot. Cops ain't around either. All right. Damn, you think they install a camera out here by now? Whatever. Fuck it. All right, you good? Yeah, I'm good. Cool. With your non-dominant hand, firmly hold the back of your partner's head against your pelvic region, and with your dominant hand, hold your phone or audio device in front of you at a comfortable position. Go ahead. Mm-hmm. Yeah, fuck that. Fuck. 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 Fuck that shit, nigga. Mm-hmm. Buzz. Put your arm around your partner, but do not make eye contact. Alright, homie. You gonna be alright to rock home? Uh, yeah. Yeah, I think so. Cool. Peace, alright. Release your hold as he has expressed confidence in being able to get home. Take a moment to be present with whatever you may be feeling right now. Pause the track if you need to before continuing to listen. Notify your partner if you need to pause, and have them pause with you before pressing play again. I arrive at this moment after a summer of thinking of him and others. Crossing the threshold into the BWI airport, I witness a nice looking man. He is black, my height, and slightly taller. The netting on his pink shirt is beautiful, as is his fade. I notice myself looking at the pockets of his jeans, the back ones. His butt is small, but really, I'm only concerned with the way that his mouth rests. The lips are slightly open and not pressed tightly like before. The eyebrows looking about curiously, not anxiously. Thus, I am relieved. As I stand roughly 10 people behind him in line at TSA, I wonder if he can feel me moving around the turn of the tape. I log into my college email to search the name of the library where I first saw him, where he told me to meet him. We met there 6 years prior. After he checked out a laptop, I gave him head under an outdoor stairwell, the steps that would carry someone from their basement to the alley above. Recently realizing that that building was the office of a president of the university. I remember the feeling of the veins as they enlarge, the slight taste of salt, how my knees squeezed in the tight space while never failing to hold my body weight. The way he asked me who my RA was. When he held out his phone, I whispered what felt to me to be a yell, "Don't record." He was watching videos. At the time, I was under the impression that sexual acts were reciprocal, and when I asked if he was going to give me one, he said we'd see. His mouth parted only slightly to say so. I know now, years later, that if you are placed on your knees, not by choice, then that is where you were meant to stay. As his grunts became stronger, so did the grip of his fingernails digging into the back of my head. And when he said, "I'm about to bust," I was happy. Not for what I had accomplished, but happy that it was over. The first time of feeling such a substance in one's mouth is one that I will fail to describe. Squeeze your eyes and close them because that is part of the taste. Imagine a lemon being juiced into the back of your throat. 3 lemons, with the pulp included. Trembling between how to go on, I spit it out, making sure not to get any on his shoes. Making the moment mine, and spreading shame across the city wherever and whenever I had to. Where some can note the bodies and names that hold the urges that they had at that time, all I can locate are slabs of concrete and stairwell railings. I think of him whenever I'm in that town, and sometimes I cross the alley, regardless of how weird it is, to acknowledge whatever we may have had, how easily we were falling through the cracks of those homes and becoming stuck, praying for any ounce that could come out and help us slip far away from our bodies. Him in need of relief, myself in need of the same thing, not a physical one, but the relief of the burden of possibility. For when curiosity becomes too much to bear, when wonder escapes the space of excitement, when it is free to roam, its shape often changes, and as it comes down, running, trying not to gush too quickly, it becomes hard, rigid, sharp, painful, and ultimately dangerous. When it reaches the bottom, on the surface is where it burns the most, one is reminded of what it feels like to return home to an eye in the kitchen that has been left on, watching itself for far too long. So as the doors of BWI slid open and our eyes held on to each other for a moment, it seemed as if since that night, things were a little bit bigger, a little more spacious. His lips had been parted, and maybe this means that he too had his moment of movement. A part of me, if not all of me, was hoping he would be on my plane, that one of us would say something to the other. And when we see each other again, because we will, I'm thinking that maybe the space will be even bigger than an airport, a space for 2 men like us. And whether he speaks or not, I hope I'd muster up some courage to ask him where he got his shirt. In a few moments, you will hear the sound psst. Pause this track when you hear this sound and travel to one of the small parks surrounding the Washington Monument. To reach the parks, come out of the alley and make a left onto Hamilton Street. Then make a left onto Charles Street. Continue on Charles Street until the road splits into two uphill roads. Take Washington Place, traveling north, until you reach a large monument at the center of Washington Place. If there is seating available in any of the parks surrounding the monument, then you should sit if you are able to do so. When you arrive in one of the parks, press play. To repeat, come out of the alley and make a left onto Hamilton Street. Then make a left onto Charles Street. Continue on Charles Street until the road splits into two uphill roads, both called Washington Place. Psst. Two black men begin exchanging words via text message at the end of 2015. One of the men is 21 years of age at the time. The other is 31 years of age. They become, at times, romantically and sexually involved. Over the span of 6 months, they see each other in person twice by intention, and other times by happenstance. During this 6-month period of their contact, the first 5 months, they are living in separate cities. Let's refer to them as Big and Little, Big being the 31-year-old, and Little being the 21-year-old. The following are audible versions of some of their text message conversations over the span of 6 months. Little sends a photo of himself with his siblings. They are all dressed in black. Big: wow. Little: what? Big: it's so beautiful, just seeing a beautiful black family. Little: thank you. This is on the way to our dad's funeral. It was so warm that day. What's your family like? Big: I talk to my brother and sister often. My father is alive. I haven't talked to my parents in years. Little: I see. I think I'm making this art project of black men kissing their sons' heads and cheeks. Big: I'm not giving you a photo of my father. Little: yeah, I love Noah Donovan. Big: my brother looks like him. Little: no, he doesn't. Big: yeah, he does. Little: yeah, I only recently in the last few years have been able to watch black men on the screen. Big: why? Little: because some of my surroundings growing up were white, a good amount actually, and I didn't understand blackness and queerness as something healthy or like any type of relationship, so it really scared me on the computer. Big: I've never thought about that. Big: I really wish you would send me that nude, but you won't. Little: LOL, maybe. If you'll send me one back, I would. Big: I would. Little: cool. Hours pass, and Little sends a new photo to Big. Big: yes. Little: LOL, thanks. Little: you gonna send me one? Big: yeah. Hours pass, and days pass before the two men have contact again. Big: here's my nude. Big sends a cartoon drawing of a naked man on all fours, on top of a desk. Little: LOL, this is annoying and childish. Big: why, what's wrong? Little: because you said you just sent the picture, and now you're picking, and it's annoying. Big: what, you want me to toot my ass up in the studio in the middle of the day? Little: it's whatever now. Big: oh, come on, can we please move forward? Little: I'm about to work out. Big: what can I do to make it better? Can we please move forward? Little: some of my friends got into Skowhegan today. Big: LOL. Little: what's funny? Big: Skowhegan's a joke. Grad school's a joke. Residencies are a joke. Little: how was the weekend in New York? Big: it was good. We went out to dance. I saw my friend. We got in a fight and then we made up. Little: oh, I'm sorry about that. Big: it's cool. He's crazy. He tried to kiss me. I dodged it. Little: LOL. Big: you shouldn't be worried about him. I don't like him. I like you. Big. I can't believe I don't have a friend to talk to. Little. That's not true. You have me. Little. Hey, I know it's been a while. We haven't spoken some time. But there was a shooting outside my place, and I happened to be locked out. I'm not sure where my roommates are, and I can't reach them. Do you think I could crouch on your couch? No rush, but please let me know. Thanks. Big. Hey. Little. Hi. Big responds 35 minutes later. What's up? Where are you? Little. I'm in the parks by the Washington Monument at the Circle. Big. Okay. How long will you be there? Little. Well, it's hard to know because I'm locked out, you know. Big. Yeah, I don't know how this is going to work. My friend is in town. Hours pass, and Little sees Big walking past his home with a man, possibly his friend that he mentioned. Little stays up that night and walks the area of Charles Street near the Johns Hopkins campus, knowing that it is somewhat secured by guards. He would remain on Charles Street until roughly 9 a.m. when he was able to reach one of his roommates. I moved to Baltimore that summer and walked what seemed to be 500 miles a day. It was my first time living in the city as an adult. All of my walks were in silence, no music, no sound outside of internal thoughts. Sirens and cars were largely ignored. I had time and the privilege to occupy it as I desired, so I tried to experience the city in a way that felt foreign to me, walking. As a competitive runner, I like to move fast at times. I thought I would become attached to the familiarity of different locations, that I would find sites I was interested in for artworks, gatherings, something. But what happened instead was that I became consumed with the processing of a relationship that had in my mind ended, but in the other person's head quite possibly never even existed. On my walks, I would see him constantly. Our contact had dwindled down to an empty well. Interestingly enough, as I was now closer in proximity to him, we spoke even less. Flag. A nigga that talks to you more during long distance is afraid of in-person contact, or maybe doesn't fuck with you, or both. I walked alone through Baltimore that summer unless I was with Amani. The one time he and I did hang out, if you could really call it that, was at a show at Metro Gallery. I was excited to see Abdu perform for the first time, as I had been listening to their music a lot lately. He followed me around that night at the party, and later he needed to use the bathroom on the way to his house. I let him use mine, and he followed me to my room as I told him I needed to sleep. He kissed me aggressively against the refrigerator in my kitchen, and I asked if we could talk. Flag. Any nigga that follows and watches you is toxic. Flag. Any nigga that you're unsure of whether or not he'll be willing to have a conversation with you. Flag, flag, flag. The next part is textbook, but for 22-year-old me, who could humanize the shadow of a ghost, things were deemed complex, when really there was nothing to untangle. The ghost came over, snuck in, and stayed the night under the promise of communicating better, thinking with more thought and care, simply being better. But who, when they're having their first experience of being wanted, and let's be clear, I said wanted, having the desire to possess something, who in that moment is considering the ability that the person who is trying to stick their hand in your ass has to love or to care or to hold? I'm not sure who, but I know who isn't. Young black queers that were never seen as desirable from the external onlooker, who instead of having crushes, were busy getting crushed daily, regularly. The regiment followed by those of us that wore dirt for skin in the suburbs and higher education. Those of us that never had crushes because we were never anyone's crush, and thus formed feelings of undesirability about ourselves and our kin. Undesirability so strong that even the most beautiful Negro, I'm talking Ali, in Lupita status, couldn't be rendered with any reality. Those of us that somehow reached crush status were only ever held there in secrecy, hidden from declaration, hidden from living on and in the tongues of others, shoved away somewhere, left smothering in the tight space between excitement and disgust. So it is no surprise that a lying ass, broken ass, fully fleshed adult could make a youngster's pussy pop while also leaving their sheets full of drool over the daydream of what could be. And for me, what could be was imagined as what would be if he stayed in the bed, when what really would be me, alone, the next morning, and the next morning, and the next, and the night after the shooting when he wouldn't let me crash on his couch. The best time we had together was via text message when once I asked if he'd date a white guy after he sent me a picture of one that he had a crush on. His response, "Sir, I'm addicted to my crazy black love rampage." I felt affirmed, at home, and I haven't touched a white man since. After bad experiences with white guys, I needed those words, even if it came from a lying ass ghost. Over time, with my friends, I've added more flags. Niggas that kiss stiffly, niggas that won't hold your hand during a cuddle, niggas that refuse to cry or adamantly hate any type of crying, niggas that toss or throw you a rag after you nut and don't look in your direction. I share these with my friend, my son, Jalen. He is 21, with a sense of promise and confidence that would scare and inspire you at the same time. In this collection of flags, I obtained some myself. The big one, waiting on a nigga from a Kehinde Wiley painting to march down Charles Street on a white horse. More foolishly, craving romance to validate my desires and attractions to men as acceptable to others. The man in the painting will leave you walking for miles to meet him. When you do finally find him, he's resting with the horse, and you're sweating bullets. You've walked all the way to the stable, and he's only barely left. He looks at you, depleted, trembling. Now, which horse do you think he's going to take out for the ride? You or the one on the stable? Nobody ever sees a Kehinde painting and says, "Wow, look at how weak that horse looks." In a few moments, you will hear the sound, psst. Pause this track when you hear the sound and travel to the corner of Howard Street and Monument Street. When you arrive at Howard Street and Monument Street, press play. Psst. Two young black men sit alone on a couch in a dark living room on 24th Street. It is the fall of 2016. Only the streetlight and an occasional SUV headlight join them. They share a pound cake from the nearby Safeway. They have recently met and have expressed interest in each other. They are meeting for the first time in person. So you haven't heard the whole album? Nah, I know there's a visual element, right? Like a visual album, maybe? Oh my gosh. What? Do you want to just listen to the whole thing right now? Yeah, I mean, why not? We're not doing anything. Lean your head on your partner's shoulder. some summertime. Some summertime. Now begin to travel north on Howard Street. Continue to let the track play. If you reach 24th Street before the track ends, then make a right onto 24th Street. Tonight I'm overwhelmed with making enough money and getting art done for upcoming exhibitions. My art tends to not make me enough money for a living, and that's a conversation I'm willing to have at length sometime. That being the landscape of contemporary art, how it fits and doesn't fit in our lives, how we're taught to and not taught to appreciate it. But what is available for work where I live now is the industry for food service. The city that I live in operates largely on tourism, and when people are traveling, they want to eat out. It pays really minimally, but people have to work in it to make only a little bit to make ends meet. I'm upset right now after a shitty shift at work. I was just looking up at my ceiling fan and I thought of him. Earlier, we were talking on FaceTime. I'm thinking of how in 2016, I had a ceiling fan. Him and I would lay around, talking, sometimes watch a movie. We'd listen to Blonde a lot. Thinking back, a lot of our time when we first met was spent just walking around Howard Street, North Ave, and Charles, charging our dead phones at Starbucks and Chipotle, meeting Markella at Unimart to go from there, usually just to the Crown, working on grit fun stuff with Amani, or getting snowballs right off of North Ave. Within a few weeks of each other, Carrie James' retrospective opened, Solange released a seat at the table, and Moonlight came out. I traveled to see Mastery at the Met and Moonlight in New York on the same day. It meant a lot for him and I to experience these works of art together. For many brown-skinned boys, I think the moment of hearing Shy ask Juan what a faggot is was quite jarring. I remember my eyes welling up, how when Shy looked up from the table, his eyes were so big and I felt like mine met his. I felt really sick after I saw the film for the first time, in a way that felt like I had been seen and given space to feel with the fullness that I hadn't before. It felt similar to when my sister, 8 years old at the time, confronted me and asked me if I was gay with a straight face. What do you say to an 8-year-old when they understand more about you than you understand about yourself? So when him and I went to see the film at the Charles, it felt exciting, in a gentle way, to know that I would be there if he needed me, if he too felt that drop of gravity in his stomach while witnessing Shy labor over the ways in which so many of us are perceived before we even move a fiber, analyzed simply by how our jaw lines rest in the palms of our hands. We would kiss for what felt like hours. In my head, I had forgotten about labels or language. For the first time, I felt regarded. I was fortunate to have this experience so young, but also for it to be with another Black person who shares a passion for the arts and believes in the ways that art and expansion can edify our lives. I started my interviews for grad school that winter, all in 1 week. I remember his surprise and dismay when I returned from Chicago and left 6 hours later to catch a bus to Yale. We spent his birthday night together that winter, and he had a cold. No kissing, but a lot of holding. Soon after the winter, our interactions lessened. I left the country for some time. He finished the school year. I left for Skowhegan at the start of the summer. And in the months prior, I'd moved to my mom's to save what little money I had after I paid for the program's fees that my fellowship didn't cover. It seemed that suddenly, things were showing that life wasn't always going to be so convenient for the both of us, or so blissful and easy. One morning, when our relationship was changing drastically, without saying so, he had me leave his bed. It was 7 a.m. and it was cold out. There was snow everywhere, and he wasn't sleeping, and I wasn't sleeping because he wasn't sleeping. His long legs hitting me through the night, his warm socks twitching often. He stayed in the bed as I packed my bag. He had voiced not being able to see us sustain a relationship when I moved for school. We were so young. I hadn't thought of it. He was trying to set up healthy boundaries for us, and I didn't understand, largely because I didn't want to acknowledge the ending of something, of the softness, of being met with a smile the size of yours, of not seeing the thing that confirmed me on a regular basis. In those months, we developed a foundational love for each other, one that is more important than my desire for kisses, one that allows him to call or text me now with an urgency dealing with anxiety or insecurities. We can talk about art, men, sex, our families, our brother Frank. How would I regard other men had I never had this experience with him? All of that walking, waiting in the cold for each other, solidified my beliefs in supporting others as they're changing, growing, becoming. Waiting does not necessarily mean wasting time. It can truly be a testament, a way to love, a way to care for someone without disposing of them. That morning, when I was asked to leave his room, I walked to install an exhibition. I was nearly in tears. I bumped into the 31-year-old that I mentioned at length earlier. I hadn't seen him in months, almost a year. It felt fitting, and I didn't know why. The timing shook me to a point of rupture. It's been over 2 years, and I haven't taken much time to think of what it might have meant, or why it maybe happened the way it did. We fast forward by 2 years, 6 months, and some change. It is the year 2019. Grad school is over, and I live far away. These memories float around in my head often. Something that happened in the in-between time is that I was reunited with a high school friend, a poet, Jalen. She gave me a ground to stand on and a bridge to jump off of. After sending her a proposal to collaborate on a project about desire, her response stirred inside of me desires I had kept hidden from others and even myself. We exchange ideas and thoughts today about sex, intimacy, family, what it means to declare someone or something as your home. Our engagement, in less than 2 years, has expanded my thinking and my imagination of what my life can be, no longer beholden to the limiting ideologies that I absorbed and failed to align with. Our relationship relies on generosity, deep and close listening, and attempts to feel the things that the other expresses about their own life. We hold each other's highs and each other's lows in hopes of helping each other reach as many moments of elation in this life as we can. Often we speak of what we will do with grant money and fellowships that we project ourselves as winning in the near and distant future. This practice and exchange allows us to see clearly what work we need and want to do before we are no longer able to do anything else. This summer, on a 2-hour walk before going to Aloha for some happy hour, we spoke at length with our son Jalen about love interests, engaging with others through the digital interface, facades, capacities, giving and receiving. As a 21-year-old, he has a different understanding of himself as a queer person than we ever could have possibly imagined having of ourselves 4 years ago. One night, a few days later, Jalen and I sat together in the park on Washington Place. I told him, if the saying is true, I am my ancestors' wildest dreams, I wondered what his were. I asked him what he thought our ancestors would have wanted for us. He said this: space, freedom to think, to talk, to look around, and to look for something more. They would have wanted this, what we have right now. When asked what Jalen's wildest dreams would be, she responded, I dream of there to be more love, because there's enough love to go around. We close with short writings from artists, writers, thinkers, whose names will follow. When the waters grew still and her reflection came in clear, she pondered upon the image. Any entity, any process that cannot or should not be resisted or avoided must somehow be partnered. Partner one another, partner diverse communities, partner life, partner any world that is home, partner God. Only in partnership can we thrive, grow, change. Only in partnership can we live. Put all of your friends in it, everybody you loved, so one day they'll find you and know that you were all here together. Processing the reality of our situation and not my desires for or projections of it, I wanted to tell him what I had yet known, what I could only possibly know after, and only after it all ends, because it always does, and it always will. I wanted to tell him, I love you, and it'll be all right. Jalen Harris, E.J. Hill, Octavia Butler, Camille Billups, and Audre Lorde. When I am out on the roads, running for miles, not near the phone, or the pen and the paper, my shorts dangling from my waist with beads of sweat as clips, I appear alone. But on a cellular level, here we are. You are everywhere, sitting on my skin, punching through my calves, rattling against my sternum. I am still here, and you are strapped onto my back.